just to give everybody a flavor of it, could you do a short reading?
Sure. The book is about thinking about climate change that's presently happening and to come in our valley. And the first selection I'd like to read is a part about water and the future of water in the decades to come in our region. Water vapor has no simple fate. It may condense, form a cloud, and then evaporate, again invisible and alone in the clear blue sky. It may settle as fog, nourishing a giant redwood, or condense as dew, decorating a spider web. Or it may fall as rain or sleet or hail or snow. In ways that we too often disregard, the fate of water vapor is entangled with our own. In the Rogue Valley, the form of water's fall makes all the difference. The usual way of reporting our precipitation, inches of rainfall per year, conceals this essential fact. More than by any other change, global warming threatens us with a seemingly simple magic trick, transforming snow into rain. The water supply of our valley rests on the shoulders of two very different mountains, Mount McLaughlin and Mount Ashland. Mount McLaughlin is a great Cascadian volcano, 9,495 feet tall, with the bulk, symmetry, and grace of youth. Its main cone is thought to be only 200,000 years old, a mere stripling as mountains go. The snows of its treeless summit melt down into the pure, gushing abundance of Big Butte Springs and Butte Creek, which supply the Rogue River and the city of Medford with clear, cold, clean water all summer long. 25 miles to the southwest, on the opposite side of the Bear Valley, rises Mount Ashland, not as a great isolated cone, but rather as the highest peak on a ridgeline of battered granite buttes, the front range of the Siskiyou Mountains. This is a different geological world from the Cascades. Mount Ashland is no volcano, but the top of an ancient, folded, recrystallized, uplifted, and eroded block of Mesozoic seabed more than 150 million years old. Though Mount Ashland is the highest peak in the Siskiyous, it reaches only 7,500 feet. Its heavily forested north-facing slopes gather snow all winter and release it in the spring to form Ashland Creek, the only water source for the city of Ashland. On its southern slopes, the melting snow makes a very different journey, flowing south into California to feed Grouse and Cottonwood Creeks, and finally the Klamath River. Without the snows of Mount Ashland and Mount McLaughlin, we would live in a completely different world. We would face a future of drought and fire. Is that our future? Part of the point of my discussion of native and non-native plants and animals is to kind of bring home the fact that nature is continually changing. Mm-hmm. It's changing because of our activity sometimes. It's also changing because of events that we do not have a direct hand in. For example, there have been a number of bird species since the 1950s which have spread into Oregon from California. Some of that may be from climate change, some of it may be from human habitat modification, but some of it may also be simply because those animals have a biology which is allowing them to exploit new habitats and they're expanding. So the idea that we can push a stop button and say this is the natural environment and this is how we want to keep things is really unrealistic and reflects an inaccurate understanding of how nature continually operates. But of course that is sort of the paradigm that we've always had in making national parks and making preserves. We sort of have this idea that we draw a boundary and we say this is a beautiful wilderness place, we will preserve this as it is forever. And that's caused a lot of problems because we need to allow for nature to move and to adapt, and that will be increasingly more important in the face of climate change.
Well, could you read another section?
Sure. I'll read a part of one of the poems in the book. The book's about half prose and half poetry, and there's a section called the native and the new, and just want to show one of the photographic composites we put together. These are all very beautiful wildflowers that are quite familiar to people in the Rogue Valley, and half of them are native plants, native wildflowers, which we tend to think of as good, and the other half are introduced alien plants, which we tend to think of as weeds. But when you look at them, they're all quite beautiful, and I think we need to give weeds a bit of a break in our mental judgments. This is part of a poem about this issue called Weed Garden, and it's about our native wildflowers and some of the new ones which have come in. Deeper in the wild, wildflowers still survive, not yet cast out of their native land, but at the edge of town, only scattered golden poppies persist in local beauty. Among the invaders, these purple blooms of vetch, salsify's silver globes of seed, and the white wheels of Queen Anne's lace turning in the breeze. The other survivors, cattail and horsetail, milkweed, wormwood, and nettle, tend to their defenses, not their flowering. You are coarse, you weeds. You ask us for nothing. You are profligate and you are merciless. You make the most of the mess we make, and we do not forgive you for that. But you are, after all, the flowers in this garden that is our world, and you and your kind will carry life on into the warming years, into the melting north, and back into the burning forests, and for that, as I bend down before I pull you out, I say, thank you.
Go ahead. Why don't you read that last poem?
I tried to end on a somewhat hopeful note and also be true to myself and be realistic. So the result was a poem called The World to Come. The world to come will not be blessed, yet may you be. Blessed in strength for those hard times, blessed in love, for love is always blessed. Blessed in courage to conquer the fear that will seek an easy victory. Blessed in peace that you create, for there will be no other. Blessed in hope for a better world to come.